Harry is genetically posh. Despite growing up in an ahistorical, lower middle class, post-war prefab housing estate where all the buildings look the same and there's this pressure to conformity and everything's like cheap and ugly and classless and cultureless, Harry Potter, he's genetically posh. He belongs genetically to Etonian, Oxbridgian archers, wearing robes, in an ancient institution, speaking Latin. He belongs genetically reciting Latin spells, playing sports, which require extremely expensive equipment. He doesn't belong with the Dursley, chav, pleb conformists, with no culture, no Latin, no robes. And the reason for this is like genetics. He is Boris Johnson, forced to grow up like Tommy Robinson. Solomon and Smith. Welcome to Solomon and Smith. I'm Jack Truckenpetter. That's Milo Garner. Neither one of us is Solomon or Smith, but together we are Solomon and Smith. Harry Potter is by miles the most successful work of literature, literary saga of our lifetimes. It's the only time in my life I've ever seen people queuing up for books. Something basically unthinkable in our current zeitgeist. People queuing around the block to buy like a book. Not some like video game where you get to like massacre each other with big guns, like a normal thing to queue up for, but like pages, printed, ink printed on paper so that they can turn through, like a book, People queuing around the block for a book. And
at midnight as well, not to forget, like middle of the night, school day, still doing it.
You see people, camping out for a book, like that amount of hype for a book, completely unthinkable. I've never seen anything remotely like it. And if you compare it to the other massive selling books, like the Bible and the Quran and Dianetics and Atlas Shrugged and the quotes of Mao Zedong, it's like the only one that seems to be doing it on the free market. This is just pure free market hype. This isn't like, it doesn't have some affiliation with a powerful political body or religious institution. It's just getting through on free market hype. And it's the only time in my life I've ever seen people, like groups of people reading books. If you see one person reading a book in life, it's a bit weird. It's like if
what I'm doing there, mate?
I'm on a walk through.
What's that?
What's that object in your hands?
What are you looking at?
I know, and like if I'm on a walk in town and I see someone holding a book, I'll tell Hannah about it in the evening. I saw a guy reading today. It's a weird thing. And this was like groups of people reading the same book, often in like circles, on the school playground, like at the bus stop, on the bus, you'd see like four people with the same book open. There's not been anything remotely like it in the literary world.
The ferocity of the reading as well. It wasn't just the casual reading, but people would go to this midnight launch, read the entire book, then and there, just get home, read it, the next day be talking about it, because there was some importance of knowing how it ended. I mean, the last one, especially how it ended, knowing everyone else was playing the same game.
Yeah.
What a world.
I know, and like especially after book 4, when Rowling became completely uneditable and wrote these disgustingly long, like Tolstoyan tomes.
A key memory of mine is the size of Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
As a child, dwarfed by it, clambering up it. What is this book? Must be the greatest thing ever written.
Like children's hands are just too small to open Order of the Phoenix. It's ridiculous. And I think the whole thing, if you glue the whole saga together, it must be at least like over 1 million words. It's huge, and I know so many people who've read the whole thing multiple times, particularly women, like women in their 30s, who are just like complete deranged psych ward behavior of reading this million-word children's book saga for the 10th time. What are you doing? My God, what is this? Like like as a kid, I loved it. You know, as one of the key memories of Mum reading to me at bedtime was just the Philosopher's Stone, Sorcerer's Stone to our American audience.
The
Americans just don't
magic
know.
stone.
The magic stone. Philosopher, what kind of word is this? The magic stone. Harry Potter and the magic stone. I think the publisher paid Rowling I think like 500K for to make that decision. I'd have
Great.
taken it. The big magic rock. Stone. What's the stone? Harry Potter and the magic rock.
She wouldn't take the
Yeehaw.
million for the magic stone. She said, "I'll compromise 500K
Yeah.
sorcerer. It
Anyway.
has to be multisyllabic."
Yeah, and that was great. And when the first film came out, I was like 6 years old, which is the perfect time to see that first film. I think in some ways, like the first film's the one I have the fondest kind of feelings toward, just because it's glowy, happy land. You know, it has
Yeah, but
darkness as well, but there's a
the
gleam.
shot
There's a
and the
magic.
shot of all the candles on the sort of water surround. Is that in the first one?
Yeah, the pan down from the
Yeah.
candles, and John Williams just shitting out Tchaikovsky melodies like pew 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 pew. I think about like 17 hummable tunes.
Yeah, they're currently running through it. You know, I was.
And you could put that in the Nutcracker, and no one would like go, "Oh, there's a drop off in quality."
Yeah, it'd be like adding another book to the Bible, and everyone. That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, exactly. Nice work. Yeah. So and like have this warm feeling about it. I'm more familiar with the films than the books. I think I only read myself the first one and had the first 2 or 3 read to me after they just become behemoths. I do have kind of Harold Bloomy opinions about them. I think on a sentence by sentence level, especially as a slow reader, the number of cliches and the sort of ham-fistedness of some of the writing, just prosaically on a sentence by sentence basis, prevents me from going through it with much glee. I find it quite hard to read just for plot and character. I'm one of these people. I really need the writing on a prosaic level. So that's why I've not really engaged with the books much. But I enjoy the first book. And there's loads of things about it that you take for granted in this post-Potter zeitgeist, like funny little, like they deliver post by owls. You know, like there's all these like funny little, slightly campy ideas in it.
The
that
staircases that move, I always like those a lot. I think
staircase.
they forgot about them or something later in the series because it was just inconvenient.
Yeah.
But you know, the chase scenes, I forgot the staircases move. Where are we now? But there's a lot of stuff like that in the early, and there's the like newspapers with the moving people on them, which is now
and the
passe,
Quidditch, the invention of Quidditch, and
craziest
also
sport
just
ever invented.
her just genuine, her one enormous talent that is undisputed is names for things. It's genuinely Dickensian. Quidditch, the names of the Quidditch balls, the quaffle, the snitch, the bludgers, all the house names, fantastic. Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff. They just embed yourselves in the brain, like equivalent to Dickens. You know, imagine coming up with the name like Hagrid. You know,
Yeah,
it's
and there's a
so
nice
deep.
balance between the Anglo-Saxon sounding stuff and then all the Latinate stuff. And some of it is just like vague synonym or it sounds a bit like abracadabra. But it gives it a bit of a... And she's not sort of a philologist or linguist like a Tolkien type character, but it is just all sound, all voice.
Yeah, exactly. She just has this sensitivity to sound, and I gather she is a big fan of Dickens, and Dickens and Tolkien feel like the biggest anxiety of influence hanging over the Pottiverse. We'll get into that. So, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it is it strikes me that people very rarely actually talk about Harry Potter in the kind of way we talk about books on this show. Just strikes me as kind of interesting. It's certainly not something that has established itself in universities or whatever. People talking about Harry Potter, and if they are talking about it, I feel like they're talking about it in ways that I don't find very convincing or interesting. So a major sort of means of talking about Harry Potter in a sort of academic, analytic sphere is treating it as an allegory for being gay. Being a wizard is being gay. You can point to Harry starting the thing in a closet. He lives in a closet. It's in a British public school, which has like fires off these uber gay vibes and all the I don't know what goes on there. There's a thing called fagging, whatever the hell that is. Seems pretty gay to me. But it sort of falls apart when you think of gayness being conferred upon him by letter, and there being sort of an underground...
Is that not how it works?
There's like an underground gay deep state. It also makes Voldemort, like the villain, a sort of gay supremacist, trying to sort of purge all the straight genes from the wizarding world. It turns Voldemort into Magneto in X-Men 2.
Yeah, I'm compelled. I'm
more compelled by Magneto and X-Men 2. Just because Bryan Singer like wags the gay metaphor, gay equals mutant, so firmly over the head throughout that film, and it makes McKellen totally correct. Gay people can move metal with their minds. And Patrick Stewart's like, oh, there's a middle way between gay and straight that we could know. The gay people are infinitely superior. They shoot lasers from their eyes. Gay people can control the weather, instantly heal their wounds. Why would you... McKellen just... he's right. He's right to get Brad Dourif to exterminate all the straight people.
We said it here, and we mean it.
But Voldemort, I don't know. I don't buy it. I think the interesting lens, the interesting matrix to throw over the Pottiverse is social class. I think Harry Potter as a kind of, not one-to-one, but sort of interesting meshed up class allegory is much more interesting.
Yeah, and I think certainly is in there. I mean, the mudblood thing, maybe it's slightly racial, slightly social, but I think... especially in this later, these, I never saw them, but the prequel films, the crimes of Grindelwald, where they have to prevent the Holocaust and they fail.
Yeah.
There's a pretty big crime, Grindelwald.
God, people should just prevent Rowling from having anything to do with her films. That's why the Columbus ones are so good. They kept a restraining order. There's a Rowling stick that keeps her away from set, keeps her away from the script writers. Just prod, keep her away from the filmmaking process. Advert time. Please like this video. Leave a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't subscribed already, and please consider supporting us over on Patreon. We're going to upload 10 minutes or so of supplementary Harry Potter chat. We're particularly interested in the sort of Tolkien, Dickens influences on Rowling. And we have a bit of a chat about this new HBO remake madness that's happening. We're enormously grateful for all our support we get over there. Thank you very much. Anyway, but lots of the interesting contradictions within the Pottiverse around class are also kind of there in Rowling's life. She's a socialist woman living in some sort of stately home with land belonging to some, ancient Scottish family. She's a reverse Tony Benn, a reverse Jessica Mitford. I think she calls Jessica Mitford her heroine She's a version of Jessica Mitford who goes into the mansion life the more vocal she is about social justice. She's not growing up in the mansion and then develops this social conscience. She develops a social conscience and then goes into into the giant mansion with like land, like flowing land. Rowling could take you around her estate and like show you her land. How many socialists can do that? Yeah, I think Rowling was given like Ons and Rebels, Mitford's autobiography as a teen, and it made a huge like effect on her. Really wanted to be like Mitford, and there's a lot of Jessica Mitford in like Hermione, but again reversed, like coming up rather than coming down from the castle. And throughout Potter, there is all this low-hanging fruit kind of social conscience, social justice warrior kind of material. There's anti-slavery stuff in there. The villains are not particularly like subtle pseudo-Nazi figures. There is this sort of blood purification scheme being hatched by the antagonists of the book, the Death Eaters. But there is the thing that's most memorable about it for me is a sort of a deeper, more fundamental aristocratic kind of resentment of mediocrity. A resentment of the modern world, a resentment that anyone should grow up in mediocre settings. There's something you can map the idea of muggle onto mediocrity, onto sort of petty bourgeois, like conformist life, cultureless mediocrity. There's this disdain for a kind of lager and crisps, I live in Luton, plebeian muggle existence. She likes the rustic poor. The rustic poor Weasleys in their Dickensian Peggotty house, where the dad's a civil servant, but inexplicably they're poor, and and they live this rustic countryside existence. They don't live in modern prefab housing. They've never heard of call centers or car parks. They don't have a TV, and if they had a TV, they wouldn't watch ITV. They're poor. The Weasleys are poor in a picturesque manner, very Dickensian. I think,
and there's the sense of genuine escapism in Rowling's work. I mean, the first initially you're just going to the magical station in King's Cross, the platform, heading up into Fantasyland and leaving behind a lot of the weird modern conveniences, and we end up in a place sort of out of time. It's a bit like the Shire of Tolkien, which is meant to be sort of in a kind of Dark Ages style Europe, but then they're more Edwardian or Georgian or something. They all have teapots and brass knobs on their doors. They exist in this strange region of vaguely past-esque perfection, in which all things are good, being the poor and the rich and the middle class are all in this kind of fantastic substratum or stratum of society, which doesn't exist in our present reality. Because it's interesting, the things that we leave behind, like television. There's no reason there shouldn't be television in the wizarding world. Stick cassette in the corner, it's fine. But there's something about it that jangles wrongly.
Telephones as well. You could have a rustic, kind of interesting, quaint-looking telephone, and I think the telephone is technologically consistent with some of the other things of the wizarding world, but it would just feel wrong there. Technology and technological modernity is sort of rejected by the wizarding universe. There's an overlap with Tolkien in that respect as well. There's this sort of ancient, conservative Abneigung, like a feeling of disdain for modernity, which is interesting because both of Rowling's parents were, I think her dad was an engineer, a chartered like engineer, and her mum was a science technician. Both her parents belonged to the technological world, but Hogwarts is without technology. There are no refrigerators, even though those are extremely useful. Presumably they can preserve food through sort of freezing spells, or things like this. Presumably, there are various aspects of wizard existence which replicate modernity across the
Yeah, which
board.
is often the case. It's not as though you're living in a completely different frame. A lot of the same conveniences exist. They're just given a loop round to get there. That perhaps there's a completely different way of doing things, but that isn't really what Rowling's after. It's more like how do we make it organic? How do we
Hmm.
make it magical? How do we make, getting to places and moving around? And interestingly, the one thing that can invade this past, the sentimentalized past world is the steam train, which is that's
Yes,
about as
interesting.
advanced
Yeah.
as you get, and that is super advanced technology with regard to its origin and with regard to its sort of in Victorian Britain. Oh, the steam train, this is cutting edge. This is like the
Hmm.
bullet train of today.
Yeah.
But for that one is almost like the most advanced you can get while maintaining rustic beauty.
And
The kind
yeah,
of
and
plume of
whimsy.
smoke, which is in its way, dark satanic mills, but in now time, you look at that and think, wow, things used to be so real, so of the earth. And
Yes,
that's
yes.
your conveyance into the past is this piece of super technology that has got a bit old. But it's the point with Rowling in so many of her things is there isn't really a strong rationale. It is all vibes based. And this
Hmm.
is what really twisted Tolkien out in his last years, realizing that some of his ideas don't click together in a very sensical, historical, linguistic manner. And so he spent years and years trying to fit them together. Whereas Rowling clearly doesn't really care about that at all.
No, no, it's
Not
just
even not even a sort of like I remember in the post Potter years when she was working out sort of what to do with her life, she just started like, making things up and sort of post editing it upon the books, like a big map of all the other wizarding societies, which were picked sort of at random. Yeah, the whole continent of Africa has one. There are like three in Asia. It's just sort of random holes on a map. Again, I don't think there was much thought put into it. And maybe
hmm.
the bigger you go with this, the worse it becomes. Whereas in a small level, it's sort of compelling, just because there is something behind vibes. When you
Yeah,
make a
yeah, yeah, it's
decision,
true.
there is
And
something
there's
about the steam
subconscious,
train.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
not
and
completely random.
and a reason for the popularity of the books as well. There is something there. There is something that's there that is magical about certain pieces of detritus of pre-modernity, and that's not magical about certain aspects of modernity. I suppose I wonder to our like American audience whether some of this class stuff didn't come across as much. I mean, it is certainly a British obsession, more pronounced to a British reader. I suppose a thing to point out is that in the UK, the lower your class or the more abstracted you are from the upper class, the less you have access to historical buildings, to antique traditions, to religion, even, especially a more high incense and bell based religion, to ceremony, to any of these deep anthropological well springs of magic. You're encased in a kind of US brand world without history and without continuity. I had a friend from Saudi Arabia who told me that it was interesting in Britain that all your rich people, all your super elites tend to live in like old houses. They tend to live in like nice, like old rustic cottages built in the 18th century. Whereas in Saudi Arabia, all the richer you are, the newer your house. Like this house
Hmm.
was built 2 days ago. Perfect. And that's perfect for me and my big oil dollar sack. Um, but in the UK, you're more alienated from a sense of deep time, from a sense of deep historical continuity with your forebears, with a sort of ancient traditional England. When you're in the lower echelons, you're more and more abstracted from that. Your world looks a lot more ahistorical. I was interested, like because you work in Westminster at the moment, and me and you walk through Westminster, it's like la la la, fantasy Harry Potter land. It all looks like Harry Potter. It all looks like Hogwarts. It's like these beautiful, like faux Gothic arches that you you tread under. But lots of the MPs and lords and even civil servants who work there, they grow up and their entire life looks like Harry Potter.
It's the nice pipeline from, Georgian house into Oxford into a surprisingly Oxfordian looking political building, which you then die within. And you've
Yeah.
spent your entire life gabled and castled and crenellated because this is the kind of strange upper echelon realm that was constructed and maintained. And the Victorians really brought it back in a big way with the neo-Gothic.
Yeah.
They thought we could all be King Arthur. We could,
Mm.
well, but we could all be King Arthur and sort of make this just a way of living life, and they did.
Yeah, and you when you go to one of the public schools, again for the Americans, public doesn't mean public schools like you. So we have state schools, muck, filth of the earth, orc people. Then we have like grammar schools who are sort of the, Ayn Rand meritocratic elite. The highest IQs, children with enormous IQs get to go to the grammar schools. Then you got private schools, just rich parents, run-of-the-mill rich people. And then you got public schools, which is, lizard people. We do the eyes wide shut parties under the mountain. We're all lizards. We eat children. And the public schools at the top kind of are the ones that look most like Hogwarts, and they are the ones that look the most like Westminster, that have the most continuity, pipeline continuity with Hogwarts. It's
Yeah, and
posh. It's magically posh, and being magic and being posh, they go together.
they tend to be boarding. They have the house systems. They have the
Yes,
particular
yes.
uniforms. They have weird ancient traditions.
Weird sports that like plebs don't understand.
Rugby.
Rugby named after a British public school.
Yeah, rugby union. What?
The
I know
hell?
what league is. I
I
could do
know
what?
rugby league, but rugby union. Oh, Matt, it's really weird watching rugby union because they're like acting like troll apes. You're throwing themselves into each other, but the referees are mic'd up and the players are mic'd up, and they're like, "Oh, hello, right, rather, what ho?" It's like insanely posh rugby players.
Yeah, I'm not sure are they even allowed to be paid yet because the big difference between league and union is that union was for gentlemen who couldn't be paid for the sport because they had their jobs and they had their property, whereas the league players couldn't afford to live if they did that. So they were allowed to be paid to play sport. I don't know if the union guys get paid yet.
Yeah,
Maybe not. It's
like, justice for rugby union players. Anyway, yeah, like continuity with one's own history is a privilege of the elite. If you want to have a sense that you and medieval Brits share something, you got to be at least a little bit up the class ladder. The further down you are, the more you're in this abstract, neoliberal, ahistorical, acultural desert of prefab housing and supermarkets and roads.
Yeah, and I suppose there's also it's the embedded class thing, not just because I think especially in the American context, class and wealth sort not quite but sort of synonymous. You can just sort of zoop yourself up and be a sort of upper class or upper middle class person just because you got big bucks. Like you can imagine, I don't know if they really exist, but the kind of Texan oil tycoon guy who about 100 years ago, family was nothing. They found this spurt of black gold, and suddenly everyone respects them and sort of kisses their feet. Whereas in Britain, you get this quite wonderful existence of an upper class who can even be poor, but they'll still look down on you. You can be Lord Alan Sugar in the House of Lords. He's been ennobled, a big millionaire type character, like the UK's Donald Trump in some respects. And yet he's still a Cockney geezer, still a working class man.
Hmm.
That's just permanent. That's just in the genes. And it's maybe it's more complex. You can move around in different spheres, but there is something almost genetic about it.
No, it's yeah, definitely. And Harry is genetically posh. Despite growing up in an ahistorical, lower middle class, post war, prefab housing estate where all the buildings look the same and there's this pressure to conformity and everything's like cheap and ugly and classless and cultureless, it doesn't even have the grit and ugliness of of a concrete, horrible, city estate where we listen to hip hop music. It's just boring and shit. But Harry Potter, he's genetically posh. He belongs genetically to Etonian, Oxbridgian archers, wearing robes in an ancient institution, speaking Latin. He belongs genetically reciting Latin spells, playing sports which require extremely expensive equipment. He doesn't belong with the Dursley, chav pleb conformists with no culture, no Latin, no robes. And the reason for this is like genetics. He is Boris Johnson forced to grow up like Tommy Robinson. Maybe that's a bit too low. He's Boris Johnson forced to grow up like, I don't know, like Harry Potter.
Like Harry, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good analogy for Harry Potter.
And Harry, he never assents to his class, and he never feels like he belongs to his class. He's apart from it. He doesn't like go, yeah, I'm a guy, I'm like a Privet Drive kind of guy, I'm like a Dursley. He feels apart from it, like these weird Dickens children, like Oliver Twist, who's growing up in like an East London workhouse for 7 years, and he doesn't have remotely like a Cockney accent. He's like, oh hello, just he's genetically upper class. Despite his upbringing, all the kids around him, all the other like workhouse kids, and all the other kids on the street are talking like, "I am geezer," blah, blah, blah. But Oliver is just, he's talking like David Cameron, from birth, genetically, and Harry Potter is sort of the same. He's just constantly different from the house, and I don't think the gay mapping of him feeling different to everyone around him maps as well as the posh mapping. He's just posh within him. He has poshness, genetically inherited poshness that that doesn't map onto Privet Drive. He belongs to the Archers.
It's interesting that the books were not from Hermione Granger's point of view, that the books were not about a real mudblood who comes up through guile and talent and skill, and sort of she actually works at, one of the state school kids who end up in Oxford before the quotas back in the day, when it was really like the sort of 1 in a million. How the hell did you get here? And that's that would really be, especially in an American context, a very an acceptable idea. Not really the chosen one, but pure grit, pure determination, going to beat these poshos. Whereas, as you say, Harry seems he is aristocratic. He was just born in the wrong house. It's like, switching the prince and the pauper, but the prince is inherently princely.
he's inherently princely, and he doesn't even feel too amazed by his enormous piles of gold that he's inherited. He's just like, oh yes, this is how it belongs like this. He's relatively, he's relatively like amused by the whimsical new surroundings, but ultimately it just feels right. Like, yeah,
and he's a chosen one. That is the whole thing.
He earns nothing. He doesn't earn anything. He inherits everything, not just money, but magical ability and
reputation.
Fate and reputation. Oh, you're a De Quincey. He doesn't earn a single thing, which not only makes him different to Hermione, but different to Rowling herself. Rowling is the, Margaret Thatcher bootstraps. It works her way to become richer than the Queen. But Harry is comically mediocre at everything. um, and just inherits every single aspect of his character. It's interesting how Rowling, despite the enemy being the Nazis, kind of does write explicit racial hierarchy into the lore. You are
Mm.
genuinely better at magic if you have more magicians in your bloodline. Like, why does she give Voldemort that? Why did she? It's unusual. Like the Muggles are genuinely less capable of doing magic,
Yeah,
and
whereas the Hermione story, if it had been the Hermione story, it could have been against that from the start because your chosen one is specifically from outside the line. And then you could do all kinds of things.
something we don't bring up in the video, but which Anna told me we should bring up, is that Hermione's parents are both doctors. So by Muggle standards, she is pretty upper middle, at lowest upper middle. Both parents loaded doctors, big points, big class points being scored there. But it's kind of irrelevant in the wizarding world, and it's interesting how Muggle class doesn't necessarily map exactly onto wizard class. I'm sure we're missing loads and loads of lore. Write stuff in the comments that we're missing here. As we say, we're not big Harry Potter heads. Let us know other interesting nuances we're missing out.
I mean, you end up in the same conundrum with Star Wars. When you watch A New Hope, as we now call it, you don't imagine that Luke has to be from this great dynasty of Force. It's almost like, oh, he's in touch with the magic of the universe. He's in touch with this kind of Zen reality that just exists above us. But then we find in the prequel films that Anakin, his father, was conceived by the Force. I feel like a lot of
Yeah,
people miss that
he's
detail.
conceived
That
by
he
the
was,
Holy Ghost. Yeah,
yeah, and
he's a virgin birth. You know, Qui-Gon Jinn is told that Anakin is a virgin birth.
and everyone just immediately deletes it from their brain. I saw that film frequently as a child. If you'd have told me, oh yeah, you realize he was a virgin? No. I don't remember his father, but it's no, yes,
So yeah,
very much
Luke
yes.
again is genetically predestined to it. He's got like it is racial. It's like it's fundamentally there in his bloodline, in his genetic makeup. There's his entire fate. And the same is true in Harry. Very interesting the amount of culture that I consumed as a child that did not include parents. Parents are dead. Main character an orphan. That's just a standard cutout in
Mm.
loads of material aimed at children. That we're not going to bother doing the parent relationship thing. Don't know why. Maybe it's just too complicated. Parents
Yeah,
dead. Don't worry. They love you,
clean
but they're
slate.
dead.
Yeah.
Clean slate. And yeah, you get to stand on your own 2 feet. But don't worry, you don't have to stand too hard on your own 2 feet because you're genetically predestined to be the chosen one.
But it's interesting in the Spider-Man example, which comes to mind, is they didn't do the parents thing, but then they just did. But they just made it the aunt and uncle. But it could have
Yeah,
just been mum
could
and
have been his
dad.
parents. Could have been mum and
Yeah.
dad. Could have been Peter Parker's mum and dad. Nope. Where's this coming from? This chosen one mentality. It's so
Bruce
interesting.
Wayne is a good one as
Bruce
well.
Wayne as well, yeah.
Big
And
dead parents energy.
Superman, and like
Hmm.
another aspect of this that I've thought about since we filmed is that having an orphan chosen one as your main character allows you to fetishize individuality without any of the responsibility to be an individual. So your main character is special, he's unique, he's magical, all of this, but he doesn't have any pressure to not be a total conformist. In a sense, they get to be absolute conformists. They get to exercise zero free will and just let fate take them where they will. You're a magical, special individual. You must do absolutely nothing. It's all predestined. It's weird, a weird mixture, right? Harry, in the Philosopher's Stone, Harry's constantly like fucking everything up. He's accusing an innocent teacher, of taking the stone. The only way Voldemort even comes close to the stone is because Harry, breaks into the friggin' mirror room and gets the stone into his hand. It's close. Harry does like his best to be, really mess up Dumbledore's foolproof plan. The stone is safe in the mirror. Voldemort's not going to get it, but like, doop-de-doop-de-doo, Harry breaking all the rules, falsely accusing teachers, just getting everything wrong, still is just predestined for everything to go
Yeah,
right. All he has
the
to do...
public schoolboy career, I imagine, Pitt the younger had a similar experience becoming
Yeah,
MP at like 17 or whatever it was.
exactly, yeah.
His blood right.
Yeah, yeah, the public schoolboy existence, you're just falling over things, walking into walls,
Yeah, it's like you have a
just...
social safety net, but it's really, really high. It's
Yeah.
almost at the peak of the tower. That's your safety net. And as much as you try, it's really hard to actually break through the safety net into reality.
Yeah,
You are based so when you fall on hard times, you're still hovering fairly high in the sky. Even if you
yeah,
lose all money and possession, somehow you're still
yeah.
allowed in all of the clubs and the dining rooms.
Yeah, someone like George Orwell, who went to Eton, had to like actively really try to be homeless to get down and out in Paris and London written. I'm sure he could have called someone this entire
Yeah.
time. I don't buy that he was just, I'm stuck being a tramp now. Just call someone. We know you have a friend who could get you out of it. You have to really choose. And Harry tries to take this choice, tries to mess up his life and make Voldemort win, sort of in every single episode of his adventures, but is just prevented automatically.
Yeah. And
You
then I
know?
guess we've got to talk a bit about the whole the Malfoy foil to all of
Yes.
this. The posh boy who not only knows he's posh, but requires a kind of purity of poshness, which Harry has well, that's a big drink.
Hmm.
I don't think the people at home will see that, but that was a big drink. But Harry is in some way besmirched poshness by even having touched the lower world. Even if,
Hmm.
genetically it's all good, he's got the scar on the forehead, he is
Yeah.
actually rich. He could have not been rich, but he is
No.
actually
No,
rich. But there's just something that rubs him the wrong way because he doesn't have the sort of pure Aryan continuity of
and has
poshness.
seen ITV. We know the Dursleys are
Mm.
watching ITV. We know Harry Potter has seen at least one show on ITV and may even have liked it slightly.
Yeah, so maybe the progressive point Rowling was making is that the aristocrat can be besmirched by the lower world, but not lose their aristocracy, which Malfoy disagrees with. Malfoy's hardline conservative viewpoint is if the aristocrat is lost into the lower world, he can never be redeemed.
No,
So I think it's good. Rowling pushed back against that a little bit.
but I suppose Malfoy is always ready to invite Harry in. The Slytherin guys, they never really, they're like, we know you've been to the Weasley house, we know you've seen ITV, but they're always willing to let him in. They never stop like offering him deals. You
Yeah,
know?
is the theory among fans that Harry is like more truly Slytherin? Have I heard this said? And it was some
No,
sorting
no. I
hat
mean, he's the yeah.
notion.
The Sorting Hats think Slytherin's the right one, and Harry, exercises free will to
Ugh.
besmirch his blood. The Sorting Hat knows he belongs in like the racial purist aristocracy. The Sorting Hat's like, okay, this guy's a racial purist aristocrat, no question about it. But Harry, like Jessica Mitford, goes, no, I'm not gonna be like the sister. I'm gonna
One of the
like
good guys.
embrace the plebs, embrace the ginger plebs, jump into the crowd of ginger plebs with outstretched arms to embrace them. He's not gonna go to the well-groomed blonde men.
Yeah, but I do wonder in public school scenarios if there are in their houses there are sort of the pleb posh versus the posh. Like they have a whole version of
Maybe.
social reality in their own little room where they have their version of the sort of, the lumpen proletariat who, they're millionaires, but on the lower end of the spectrum, and you sort of
Yeah.
spit at them.
Well, I think Gryffindor are kind of crusaders. They're famed for their bravery. They're not the sharpest tools in the shed, but when you need to conquer the Holy Land, you send Gryffindor. I think that Ravenclaw are like the bureaucrat elite.
Yeah, Hufflepuff you needed four.
I don't
So
know what Hufflepuff are. I think they're just...
you just needed four
You need four.
houses.
One of them is Hufflepuff. Yeah.
And then Slytherin, the true aristocrats of the highest order, but also the bad guys in the way that Gryffindor are the good guys and Ravenclaw are the other guys.
Yeah. All of this very interesting coming from a socialist. There's just... she likes lots of things in spite of herself, I feel. Also critical that she's writing it in a call center. She's doing a call center job. I've done one of these jobs. They really make you long for castles. They really do. No matter your political affiliation, if you're in a call center job, you're like, I wish I was in a castle with Boris Johnson speaking Latin, you know?
And I think the thing is, she doesn't overthrow it, which would be an option. You can live the fantasy, and then at the end, there's total liberation. Hermione wins. And there's an element of that. Voldemort is defeated and so on. But the entire system could, in theory, we're not doing the Slytherin Gryffindor thing anymore. We're all in one house, the House of Hogwarts. It could be anything. It could be whatever cliched way of getting out of it. But the way is not taken. Instead, there's a new generation are established who will presumably just do the same genetic sorting thing as their parents, but it's just a bit more equitable now because there isn't the real. Well, I guess the Voldemort answer is sort of the House of Hogwarts, obliterating all division, and you just have the.
What actually is Voldemort's plan? Is it like Ian McKellen to eventually overthrow the normies, or is it just separatism? From what I gather, it was just separatism. Like, okay, exterminate the mudbloods, but then just like separatism. I don't know if Voldemort's really interested in the Muggle world. Maybe he is. Yeah. Maybe he just wants to is it puppet master.
Separate but superior. Is that to be the elite class that sort of run the show, but don't get involved?
Exactly. They're just pointing their fingers around. Voldemort is just like, we'll have a war in Iran. Assassinate Charlie Kirk. They're just those guys in the capital.
or in the prequels, Holocaust, all right.
Yeah.
Rowling was the woman to tackle that one.
Yeah.
What was that about, really?
What was that about? Really? Yeah. We never got to see the full-on Holocaust film that she made, just because the films were just losing too much money. But apparently, the last one was just going to be about the final solution. But the Jews are. Why are they killing the Jews? What do the Jews have to do with Voldemort's plan? Unless the Jews are somehow involved in magic, or what's going on?
Are they magical? I've heard people say Jews have magical abilities.
I mean, gypsies associated with magical abilities. Maybe Rowling would have exploited that. Yeah. I'm curious. I'm curious to see what that last film would have been if she'd finally.
Well, there's always the irony of Rowling is when I remember sort of growing up with the books and the films that she was well, back in the day we used to call them SJWs. The social justice warriors, and she was often mocked of being kind of left of left. Everything has to be sort of a SJW coded. I remember the big outcry when Dumbledore is revealed to be gay, which sort of seemed like just writing it backwards, and then all this kind of thing. But then when you looked into it, her various social identities were all pretty cliched and on the nose. Someone who didn't really know about this stuff, but was just sticking it on the front, which would make sense if the Jews are all sort of magic, mystic beings. As a progressive idea, wouldn't it be cool if, but equally sort of thinking...
What are you doing, JK? What are you doing, Joe? I'm confused.
But I'm opposed to the Holocaust. I'm one of the goodies. We're not saying that is
No, stop. It's just... It's interesting how the what are they called, the baddies, the Death Eaters, the mouth
Death Eaters,
they kind of have slightly deviant aesthetics. Like Bellatrix is like Susie in the Banshees or something. Which
Yeah.
apparently, teenage photos of JK, she looks like Bellatrix. Maybe JK is
Hmm.
like purging her teenage self.
The goth years.
Yeah. So I gather she had quite a traumatic teenage experience. Like her mom had MS, I think, and she was caring for her mom and had a difficult relationship with the dad, and sort of lashed out a bit against the family and would go, escape with the boyfriend. The alt culture, like I have problems with my parents, eyeliner, big fluffy hair kind of class of people. And then she's in this like catastrophic marriage in Portugal, bizarrely. And then while a single mom in the call center, all of this stuff comes out of her.